7th December 1916. Lord, I could in truth say that I have neither yoga nor any virtues, for I am completely divested of that which constitutes the glory of all those who want to serve Thee. Apparently, my life is as ordinary and banal as can be. And inwardly, what is it? Nothing but a calm tranquillity without any variation or surprises. The calm of a something which has realized and no longer seeks itself, which no longer expects anything from life and things, which acts without reckoning upon any profit, knowing perfectly that this action does not belong to it in any way, either in its impulsion or in its result, which wills, being aware that the Supreme Will alone wills in it. A calm, all made of an incontestable certitude, an objectless knowledge, a causeless joy, a self-existent state of consciousness which no longer belongs to time. It is an immobility moving in the domain of external life, yet without belonging to it or seeking to escape from it. I hope for nothing, expect nothing, desire nothing, aspire for nothing, and above all, I am nothing, and yet happiness, a calm, unmixed happiness, a happiness unaware of itself, which does not need to look at its own being, has come to dwell in the house of this body. This happiness is Thou, O Lord, and this calm is Thou, Lord. For these are not human faculties, and men's senses can neither appreciate nor enjoy them. Thus it is Thou, O Lord, who dwellest in this body, and that is why this corporeal abode seems so poor and drab for so marvelous an occupant. 8th December 1916. This was our conversation today morning, O Lord. Thou didst wake up the vital being with the magic wand of Thy impulsion and say to it, Awake, bend the bow of Thy will, for soon the hour of action will come. Suddenly awakened, the vital being rose up, stretched itself, and shook off the dust of its long torpidity. From the elasticity of its members, it realized that it was still vigorous and fit for action. And with an ardent faith, it answered the sovereign call. Here I am. What dost Thou want of me, O Lord? But before another word could be pronounced, the mind intervened in its turn, and having bowed down to the Master as a mark of obedience, spoke to him thus, Thou knowest, O Lord, that I am surrendered to Thee, and that I try my best to be a faithful and pure intermediary of thy supreme will. But when I turn my gaze to the earth, I see that however great men may be, their field of action is always terribly restricted. A man who in his mind and even in his vital being is as vast as the universe, or at least as vast as the earth, as soon as he begins to act, becomes enclosed in the narrow bounds of a material action, very limited in its field and results. Whether he be the founder of a religion or a political reformer, he who acts becomes a petty little stone in the general edifice, a grain of sand in the immense dune of human activities. So, I do not see any realizable action worthy of the whole being's concentrating on it and making it its purpose of existence. The vital being delights in adventure, but should it be allowed to fling itself into some lamentable adventure unworthy of an instrument conscious of thy presence? Fear nothing, was the reply. The vital being will not be allowed to set itself in motion. It will not be asked of thee to contribute all the effort of thy organizing faculties, except when the action proposed is vast and complete enough to fully and usefully employ all the qualities of the being. What exactly this action will be, thou wilt know when it comes to thee. But I am warning thee even now so that thou mayest be prepared not to reject it. I also warn both thee and the vital being that the time for the small, quiet, uniform, and peaceful life will be over. There will be effort, danger, the unforeseen, insecurity, but also intensity. Thou wert made for this role. After having accepted for long years to forget it completely because the time had not come and thou too wert not ready, wake up now to the consciousness that this is indeed thy true role, that it was for this thou wert created. The vital being was the first to awake to consciousness and, with the enthusiasm natural to it, exclaimed, I am ready, O Lord. Thou mayest rely upon me. The mind, weaker and more timid, though more docile too, added, What thou willest, I will. Thou knowest well, O Lord, that I belong entirely to thee. But shall I be able to prove equal to the task? Shall I have the power of organizing what the vital being has the capacity to realize? It is to prepare thee for this that I am working at the moment. This is why thou art undergoing a discipline of plasticity and enrichment. Do not worry about anything. Power comes with the need. Not because thou hast been confined, even as the vital being, to very small activities, at a time when this was useful, to allow things which had to be prepared, the time for preparation. Not because of this, I say, art thou incapable of living outside these smallnesses, in a field of action consonant with thy true stature. I have appointed thee from all eternity to be my exceptional representative upon the earth, not only invisibly in a hidden way, but also openly before the eyes of all men. And what thou wert created to be, thou wilt be. As always, Lord, when the voice of the depths fell silent, thy sublime and all-powerful benediction enveloped me completely. And for a moment, the master and the instrument were but one. The unique, eternal, infinite. 9th December 1916. It is now a long while after having come out of my contemplation that I realize what it was. Once again this evening I entered that state in which the consciousness is scattered in a multitude of different elements, centers of consciousness, both individual and collective, to carry out a certain action there, or rather as many actions as these elements comprise. By flashes, one point or another suddenly appears distinctly, then fades away, giving place to another. Each element of consciousness that acts is clearly conscious of its action. But a consciousness of the whole seems to be both impossible because of the extreme complexity it would entail and useless for the accomplishment of the work itself. 10th December 1916. Certain apparent weaknesses are sometimes more useful to thee for thy work, O Lord, than too evident a perfection. A manifest perfection seems to be the possible prerogative only of one who has withdrawn both from the world and from work in the world. But for him whom thou hast chosen as one of thy workers upon earth, I see clearly that certain weaknesses, imperfections, provided they are only apparent and not real, are in thy eyes more useful and hence more perfect than perfection itself. And to renounce perfection in its apparent form is part of an integral renunciation of the ignorance of the separate self. Is that why, O Lord, thou givest me only so rarely the ecstasy of complete identification and perfect consciousness? I was spoilt by thee formerly. Thou madest me live so constantly in thy presence. But now it seems that thou wouldst teach me to know the unchanging bliss even in darkness, and not to have any preference for either consciousness or unconsciousness. Beyond all desire, to be plunged in the condition of those who live by desire. Strange. But the strangest thing is that this leaves me perfectly calm, peaceful, and content. And that in this darkness I see a great strength, and that in the depth of the night sublime celestial harmonies can also be heard. Each new step in thy kingdom, O Lord, is a new cause for wonder